it is the idea of collaboration that I want to focus on today. The first few weeks with my housemates taught me a lot about my own personality, namely the very exacting standards I place on myself and others. Our first job as a community was writing a rule of life together, and I didn't hold back from expressing my opinions on each tiny aspect of our household, from what we ate, to how much TV we were allowed to watch, to where we did our shopping. Such early clashes made me worry. Maybe I'd never get along with my housemates. Maybe I'd have to stifle my own personality going along just to get along. As the months passed, however, I learned that I could find common ground with my housemates. One of my most positive experiences in community has been learning to relinquish total control and open myself to the sometimes odd joy of collaboration. It's true, we don't handle everything the way I might on my own, but we have learned to not only manage a functional household, but to mostly love and support one another in the process. The situations I worried would hold me back have instead boosted my confidence and strengthened my personality. Most of all, for the past 11 months, I have felt in a concrete way that I am never alone, not in moments of immense pain or difficulty, and not in moments of giddy laughter or excitement. Living in close community has created an ideal space for practicing another piece of the Johnson intern year, servant leadership. This model is about leading from within and empowering others in a way that emulates the relational nature of the universe. The coexistence of light and shadow in all things is a central theme of servant leadership. In my own life, part of leading from within has come from passing through periods of darkness, namely several episodes of clinical depression. Over the past 5 years, and especially this one, I have grown from sometimes deep and lonely introversion to sincere and authentic extroversion, informed by and grounded in my darker moments. It's been liberating for me to realize that I lead best not when I try to hide my flaws, but when I embrace them, when I project my authentic self into my work and my being. My internship at Freedom House Recovery Center has provided perhaps my most visceral experiences of servant leadership this year. Every day on the crisis unit, I encounter people in their most vulnerable moments as they struggle with addiction and mental illness. Witnessing their situations, it's difficult to know that I cannot make clients' decisions for them or magically transform their circumstances. My work at Freedom House, just as my time living in intentional community, has largely been an exercise in learning to let go of what I cannot control. Indeed, my most meaningful moments have occurred sitting alongside people and simply listening as they try to make sense of their own experiences. One day, a client asked me for help writing his autobiography for an application to a treatment program. And although he didn't say it directly, I realized he was illiterate, so I offered to take notes as he told me his life story. He had struggled for 40 years with alcoholism, but recalled clearly his childhood growing up on a tobacco farm. He had served time in prison for the accidental death of a family member, but dreamed of being able to coach his grandson's baseball team. As he spoke, I realized how honored I felt to be trusted with his words, with his life. Later, he thanked me for telling his story. Taken aback, I responded, "You are the one who told your story. All I did was write it down. And yet, without our collaboration, that story might have remained untold." Attempting to live out the tenets of servant leadership has meant nothing short of a spiritual transformation for me. I realized long ago that my faith could mean nothing without connection, without service, without stepping outside the bounds of what is comfortable or even proper. Still, it was not until I immersed myself in the language of servant leadership and, frankly, the experience of community that I could even begin to articulate the paradoxical freedom I'm starting to find in my Christian faith. In a passage of scripture familiar to me from childhood, Christ promises to be present wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. Author Sue Monk Kidd offers her own interpretation of this promise when she writes, "I'm convinced he means that if I choose to live my Christian life alone, there are great limitations to what God can say or do or be in my life. But if I have chosen to be accountable to a few people, to meet with them and talk about life as I see God unfolding it to me, then God has a chance to hold up a mirror and show me who I am." I trust that the story of Christ is a story of divine collaboration with humanity, and that the divine is ever present in a great interconnected web that binds us together in darkness as well as in joy. Stepping more fully into my place in that web this year has offered me a wealth of new insights, a few of which I will share by way of conclusion. Group work may not always be a form of torture. I can tolerate, while not condoning, the regular watching of Disney Channel original movies. I'm not as attached to my hair as I thought I was. I can coexist peacefully with people who may have, once or twice, voted Republican.
You are welcome.
I am known and loved. And finally, I am never alone. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Holly, and I worked at the Redwoods group this year. Character is who you are under pressure, not who you are when everything's fine. These words stuck out to me when I first heard them over a year ago on one of my favorite TV shows, Bones. They stood out for me in that uncomfortable, itchy way, when something is true, is exactly what you need to hear, and therefore the last thing you want to hear. I did not want to be the person these words implied. These words meant that any harsh things I said in tense moments, any decisions based on fear or cowardice, all the panicked phone calls to my mother, spoke louder to my character than any ideas or ideals or idle service. So, despite my background as a poet, as a person who cherished the beauty and wisdom of words, I chose to erase these particular words, hoping to erase that self along with them. Some of you may know how insistent God, or the universe, or perhaps your subconscious can be in teaching you what you really need to learn. But God shared this particular piece of wisdom with me again through the lips of Minister Robert Campbell, one of the interviewees in our Praxis project. When asked about advice for young people, he said, "Too often you are judged by how you react instead of how you act." This time I listened. I listened for these words in my daily life. I listened for the beat of my character amid the chaos and challenge of the last year. And the past year has provided many challenges, many gentle and not so gentle shoves out of my comfort zone. The challenges started in our house, where cockroaches, fleas, spiders, and silverfish took up residence. They continued through my 80-minute morning commute to the Redwoods group, an insurer of YMCAs and JCCs, where I worked writing safety trainings. There, I researched child sexual abuse and waded through horror stories to find a way to prevent those horrors from repeating themselves. At the dinner table each night, with my 7 roommates, 7 people with different beliefs and personalities, both harmonious and dissonant from mine, I was challenged to find new depths of respect, love, patience, and self-control required to be a faithful member of that community. And my spirit was challenged nearly every day. It was challenged by church on Sundays, by helping to teach the confirmation class at the Chapel of the Cross on Tuesdays, by the weekly intern spiritual night Perikaleo on Thursdays, and by our servant leadership class on Fridays. All of these exposed me to new ideas, new ways of worshiping God and loving others, ideas which demanded that I examine myself and my life. In these challenges, in my reactions to these challenges, in my discomfort, the rhythm of my character became more distinct. I saw the person I was proud to be and the person I was ashamed to be. I found strength I didn't know I had, strength that miraculously carried me through a long commute, a tough work day, and an itchy flea infestation. It wasn't always strength I found, though, and I had to recognize a cowardice that let me avoid difficult conversations and anything I might fail at, a cowardice that I've allowed to narrow my path. The challenge of having 7 opinions and 7 sets of feelings to consider revealed a grace I had not realized I possessed, giving me room in the tense moments to speak with eloquence and consideration from my heart, from an inner wisdom and confidence I'm only just discovering, whose beat is still faint. And through it all, I discovered how much I rely on writing, relied on the 4 journals I've gone through this year, on writing and reading poetry, on the countless letters to my best friend. What to do with this knowledge is another challenge, but as a lifelong writer, I have been told time and time again that there is no such thing as a final draft. I am and will continue to be a work in progress as long as I live, a song whose beat and melody changes according to time and place, to success and failure, to love and heartbreak. This knowledge about my character is not the answer to what to fix about myself, or a set of traits to resign myself to, but a resource to help me navigate the world, to help me navigate my own heart, a point of challenge. Because the foremost thing I'll take away from this year is the value of challenge, the value of stepping into those itchy and uncomfortable situations and truths, and seeing what person steps out on the other side. Thank you.